This is Shamokin, Pennsylvania, a tiny town on the southern end of the coal region. Miles from anything, decades from its glory days.
When I started here 21 years ago, it was coke, was big. And then it went to, and then now heroin. They say heroin can ruin a town, and we're seeing it.
Like most Rust Belt towns, it wasn't always like this. A once proud city of over 50,000 people and full of industry, its luster has faded exponentially in the last decade. It's basically a mini Detroit, but without the hipsters.
I tend to romanticize the coal region, but then when I go back and I spend time there, I realize that just people are just not very happy.
The economics are bad. You know, there's no jobs, so.
Whenever we're in Shamokin, everything used to be something. Like, this used to be this nice restaurant. This used to be this nice business. This used to be this. Nothing is what it is now.
Outside influence is, no, that area is impenetrable.
I mean, look at it. It's surrounded by hills. It literally gives a sense that nothing's getting in. But in 2004, a high school student decided to change all that and set out to give Shamokin a place to come see real, actual music from real, actual bands. There was just one small problem.
I was inexperienced about throwing shows.
And of course, it was in Shamokin.
I remember driving in and having to go through back road PA, and then a ghost town.
The thing I remember most was that it was just like this little, it was this town literally in the middle of nowhere.
And yet, in the face of all of this, the capital was born.
The fact that kids were able to put something like that together says so much.
It definitely, at the time, was really one of the only things I could think of to do in that town.
Venues like that could broaden someone's horizon.
It was one of the instances back home where you don't feel like you're back home. That little room allowed you to be somewhere else for just a couple hours.
I remember when we played these kind of small towns after, on our way through to Chicago or Cleveland, it always turned out being a smaller show in a smaller venue, but at the same time, the kids went absolutely crazy.
It's impossible to measure the impact the Capitol had. But one thing that can be determined with absolute certainty is that it mattered.
It's cool to see them actually play, their hearts out pretty much on stage for bum kids out of nowhere.
The reality was that it was probably one of the very, unfortunately, last few bright spots to ever come through.
Being able to go to the Capitol and see bands that I liked was extremely influential.
People could go there and meet people that they otherwise would not know.
Just the fact that it existed, I think, is a milestone for that area.
At the time, that's one in a million odd.
It's like a CBGB.
The feeling of being able to host something like this, to see the lines of kids that want to see a show that came to Shamokin, kids that were 20 minutes away, never heard of the town called Shamokin, and they're here to see a band, and it's just great.